Welcome to What Happened Games, a daily news show that covers what's happening in the world of video games. I'm Graham Hamilton, and I'm going to have a shorter preamble than I did yesterday. For our first story, we're talking about Nintendo's announcement that the SNES Classic Edition will be released on September 29th. This is a follow-up to the NES Classic that came out last year and was almost immediately completely unavailable. To address that problem, Nintendo has assured everyone that they will be producing more SNES Classics than they made NES Classics, but they haven't gone into details about precisely how many that will be, just that there will be more of them and it'll be easier to get your hands on them. Now, the truth is that I didn't care that the NES Classic was impossible to get a hold of, because I really didn't care about the NES Classic. There's lots of ways to get NES games. I own many, I still have my NES. I'm not a collector or anything, but the games that I really want tend to be the ones that are very easy to find on the Virtual Console or whatever. I kind of saw the NES Classic as Nintendo's belated attempt to compete with, like, those Pac-Man things or the Sega collection things, you know, the kind of like all-in-one consoles that you see, you know, at the checkout counter in Walmart or Target or something. It didn't really seem like a product that was directed at me. You know, if someone is passionate about collecting NES games, they probably already have those games, they probably wouldn't want them in that format, and to someone who doesn't particularly care about collecting NES games, the whole thing would be completely unattractive. It seemed to me like the target audience was specifically people seeing it in a store, not realizing that it existed, not having gone there specifically to buy it, and going, oh, I remember that, yeah, I'll pick that up, 30 games, whatever, sounds good to me. Only in retrospect did the NES Classic become this collector's item because Nintendo made so few of them, and Nintendo stopped producing them earlier this year. But even, as far as collectible things go, I still don't really care. But with all that said, the SNES Classic is in a totally different category. I consider this basically a must purchase for one specific reason. Along with the announcement that they were producing the SNES Classic, and it's a bit more expensive, and it's gonna have fewer games, but 2 controllers, all that other stuff, I don't care about any of that. The only thing I care about is that the SNES Classic Edition will be the first official release of Star Fox 2. I would suspect that most people watching this video don't know how big of a deal that is. Now, I actually am a fan of the Star Fox series. I'm even kind of a Star Fox Zero apologist. Maybe we'll talk about that someday. But Star Fox 2 is like the holy grail of SNES games, at least for me. Certainly for any Star Fox fan, of which, there are about 15 or something at this point. But nevertheless, Star Fox 2 was a game that was being produced by this same team and the same developers that worked on the original Star Fox. And from everything that I've seen, it looks incredible. It had more characters, new gameplay types, it pushed the 3D capabilities of the SNES basically beyond its breaking point, as if that was even remotely possible after the original Star Fox broke it way past the breaking point. But the thing that separates Star Fox 2 from most of the other kind of legendary unreleased games is that it was actually feature complete. The whole game was finished and it was ready to go, but for some reason, Nintendo decided not to release it. They just kind of sat on it and did nothing about it until eventually releasing Star Fox 64, which was produced entirely within Nintendo, and as far as I'm aware, it didn't have any involvement from the original Star Fox developers. Now, I'm not complaining about that. I love Star Fox 64. Obviously, it was made by Miyamoto, and he's amazing, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's fabulous. But what's weird is that a number of mechanics and sequences and just general details that looked like they were in Star Fox 2 were lifted kind of wholesale and put into Star Fox 64 and the following Star Fox games. Even Star Fox Zero, the most recent Star Fox game that everyone except for me hates, included the chicken walker thing that was originally designed and developed and placed within Star Fox 2. So this is just a long way of saying that Star Fox 2 is a big deal. It's a game I've wanted to play for most of my life, and I probably could have played if I was willing to get a ROM or whatever, but I don't do that kind of thing, and even if I did, there's all kinds of fake things going around. It's hard to know that you're getting the real thing, since very few people have ever actually seen the real thing. So it's kind of mind-blowing that Nintendo is releasing Star Fox 2 at all, and specifically in this circumstance with the SNES Classic. And whereas the NES Classic seemed like a product that was not for me, would never be for me, I had no interest in, even when it became clear that it was the de facto lost ark of the video game world, the SNES Classic, being possibly the only official release of Star Fox 2 that we'll ever see, has become something that I have to own, which, to be perfectly honest, is distressing, since Nintendo, even though they say they're making a lot of them, they didn't say how many, and they don't have the best track record even for making enough Switches for people to get their hands on. Producing incredibly small production runs of devices that everyone would buy if they could is kind of Nintendo's signature move at this point. And I guess I should make it more clear, there's other games on this SNES thing. There's like Earthbound, there's Link to the Past, all the stuff you'd think. It comes with a smaller number of games than the NES Classic, I don't care. It comes with a second controller, I don't care about that either. It's going to cost $10 more, it's going to be like $79.99. I really don't care. Frankly, I would spend $80 just on Star Fox 2, like an actual Nintendo released Star Fox 2. So I think I've made my stance on this pretty clear. Then on to our second story, which, I'm gonna be honest with you, a little bit of a slow news day. There's some PlayerUnknown's Battleground stuff. There's, I don't know, patches and stuff. That isn't super interesting. I guess I could do it if I had to. But an interview with Jake Solomon just came out at Game Informer, and he says some pretty interesting things about Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Now, Jake Solomon, in case you don't know, is the creative director of the XCOM franchise. He worked on XCOM 2, he works at Firaxis, and in case you haven't seen Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, it's basically Mario XCOM. So Game Informer wanted to know his take on it, and I'm really pleased to see, although not surprised, that he's super chill and cool and excited about it. One thing that I've learned over all these years is that game developers tend to be pretty chill people. Game fans, I've often seen, be vindictive and weird and cruel, but game developers tend to like one another and tend to take it in stride, for the most part, when they see their competitors, technically, having success and making interesting things, even if you might think as an outside observer that they might be annoyed by it for whatever reason. Well, fear not, Jake Solomon thinks that Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle looks super cool. He was also quick to point out that he owes much of his own success to Julian Gollop, the co-creator of the actual XCOM franchise. Firaxis didn't create XCOM, they're just kind of the stewards of it right now. And, to be clear, doing an excellent job. Jake Solomon specifically said that he's honored to be curating the mechanics for the audience, which is a great way of putting it. And really, the job of curation doesn't belong to any specific entity. This is the way game development works. There are genres and there are mechanics, and the mechanics, the nuts and bolts of the game are free to use, right? You can go out and make your own game heavily inspired, even these like spiritual successors to the games that you love, and within reasonable limits, you can just go for it. You can put your own stamp on those mechanics, and I don't think anyone would accuse Nintendo of not sufficiently putting their stamp on the mechanics that they borrow from other franchises. Also, I really like this. The biggest surprise, he said, was that Nintendo was willing to give Princess Peach a rocket launcher. He said, if I'd known we could have done that, I would have pitched that to Nintendo a long time ago. And I'm glad to hear that he's really good-humored about it. He's excited about the game. I'm sure everyone at Firaxis is. That's really good to see. I gotta say, though, this Mario and Rabbids game is just so bizarre. Like, it's great, for everything I was saying about, using mechanics and stuff. Obviously, it's fair game, but come on, it's weird to see XCOM mechanics being applied to the Mario franchise. It is very, very strange. And for the record, look, I'm sorry, but the inclusion of the Rabbids makes me less interested. If it was Mario and Luigi versus the Wario Brothers, or versus Bowser or whatever, or Wart, bring that guy back, it's been a while, that'd be one thing. But the Rabbids, I just have no time for. I'm sorry, guys. I know, Ubisoft, that you were doing the Rabbids thing before the Minions, but now, come on. Sometimes someone comes along and eats your lunch, and that's just the way it goes. I mean, keep doing your thing, by all means. But with the Minions out there, I don't know. I ain't got time for the Rabbids. And now for our last story. Like I said, it's a slow news day, but this thing, I don't know, call it a developing story, it's just a bit weird. Green Man Gaming, that kind of like Steam GOG competitor that exists? Well, they have this bundle on right now. They have this thing called the Level 30 Loot Box 30 Pack. And it's, as far as I can tell, it's basically a video game slot machine. You put in, it's on sale right now, so rather than $19.99, you put in $17.99, and you will receive a random selection of 30 titles, which can be redeemed immediately. The bundle apparently has a pretty even spread of Steam codes, Origin codes, Windows, Xbox codes, GOG, or Uplay. That's fine, people, that's understandable. If you're doing this weird slot machine thing, maybe it won't be a Steam key. You gotta live with that. But the way that they advertise this is funny. They say, who knows? You may get lucky and pick up something from the list below. And then they list these things. $2 credit, $20 credit, $50 credit, $500 credit, Mass Effect Andromeda, Tekken 7, Halo Wars 2, Dawn of War 3, Overwatch, Battlefield 1, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, Titanfall 2, Project Cars Game of the Year Edition, and Need for Speed. Apparently, just Need for Speed, no subtitle, just Need for Speed, that one. And, I'm just extrapolating here, but judging by the fact that this pack thing has a user rating of 2 out of 5 stars after 259 ratings, I'm guessing that your chances aren't great that you're going to end up with Tekken 7 or Halo Wars 2 or Overwatch or even Titanfall 2. I'm willing to bet that it's also pretty unlikely that you'll get that $500 credit. But, people like gambling. Why not gamble with games, Give us money, and we'll give you some games. Can you imagine if I did that? If outside my place there's a garage sale, and you walk up, you're like, oh, can I buy this lamp? No, you can give me $20, and maybe you'll get the lamp. Or maybe you'll get this HD television. Or maybe you'll get some socks. I could imagine that I get some pretty bad user ratings, too. Anyway, I think that's a good spot to end the episode. If you liked it, please consider hitting the like button, and consider hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget, there's new episodes of this show every single day. So if you want to find out what happened in the news today, then I guess I'll see you tomorrow.